Welcome to Amble Rambles, the official Project John 316 podcast. So today I'm going to be talking about the parable of the prodigal son, and I think I just blew my microphones. This is literally one of the most mind-bending parables I believe there is in the Bible. It's just so key and essential to a lot of what Christians do. I think the two characters, the two brothers, really fall into line with what a lot of the Christians are like. So I'm just going to start reading. This comes from Luke 15, and it says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all gathered around to hear Jesus, but the Pharisees and the teachers of the law muttered, 'This man welcomes sinners and eats with them.'" Okay, right away, I wasn't expecting this. Tells you how little preparation I have for this, but right away they're saying that the Pharisees are already like, this man, is hanging out with sinners. Ugh, what the heck is he thinking, basically? And so it says, then Jesus told them this parable. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna skip. I'm going to skip to the lost son, the parable of the lost son. Number 11, verse 11. So chapter 15, verse 11. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had two sons. The youngest said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them." So this guy's like, "Okay, I already want what you have. Let's pretend you're dead," essentially. Which I always have thought was just such a crazy idea, because it's just so rude to tell your dad that you want your share of the estate before he's even dead, before he's even gone. I mean, that tells you what just imagine what he would do if his dad really was dead. Verse 13, "Not long after that younger son got together all he had, set off for the distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of the country, who sent him into the field to feed pigs." Okay, so he gets the money, he goes out, then he dumps himself. I mean, there's people I know who sometimes I feel like are the prodigal son. It's just so disgusting how this guy is. He blew it all and squandered it. I wish I had a dictionary in front of me to look that up, because I'd love to find out what the technical term for that is. What's this footnote? Oh no, it's just money. So he spends it all. He blows it all. He doesn't even think. He's just like, "I'm just gonna blow it. Just gonna blow it." He's not even a smart guy, really. And he just blows it all on this wealth. And then he's like, "Oh, what do I do now?" So he's living with pigs. And verse 16, says, "He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything." So now he's gone from having fun up here to dirt. Okay, and literally wet dirt, mud. That's all he is now. And that's all he's in now is mud. So he's this super sinful guy who then loses everything. And if you ask me, oh yeah, if you ask someone, they'd be, yeah, he deserved that. He blew it all, and he left his father. He was rude, and then he blows it all. Yeah, he deserved it. Then 17, it says, "When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of the hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father." One thing I've realized is that you can say all you want. Oh, he was, Alright, I'm going to share with you something. There's some people that I noticed recently who had these totally changed testimonies, how they were doing horrible stuff that I'm not going to mention on the internet. Where they were doing horrible stuff and then they changed and turned around. And yet they're not that great of people, even though they have turned around. And so I was kind of like, I was talking to my dad and I was like, these people aren't that great. How can you have been changed with this crazy testimony that you have, which one of them did have this crazy testimony, and yet still be kind of like not that great of a guy? And he was like, David, God convicts you of sin at different times. And I was like, yeah, but still, I just... And so, anyways, also, he really hasn't confessed. Like, he's like, yeah, I've sinned. But, Pharaoh himself told Moses, I've sinned, please forgive me. And then when he removes the plagues, he says, I'm still not going to let you go. Everyone can confess their sin, but to be repentant of your sin is something else entirely. Something else that the prodigal son so far has not done. So then, latter part of verse 20. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and ran and was filled with compassion for him, and he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Okay, keep in mind, the son... Sorry, this is not comfortable. I gotta get used to wearing these things. The son really hasn't changed. And it says, while the father was a long way off. Okay, let's remember this is God talking, telling this story. When God's talking, there's no unimportant details. He was a long way off, his father saw him. So his father... Okay, yeah, granted, maybe he was just looking out the window and he was like, oh my goodness, I think that's my son. But I'm pretty sure that he saw him because he was looking for him. The father loved the son. God loves his children even when they're in deep sin and have not... This is so uncomfortable. Even when they're in deep sin and have not confessed it. Okay, this is the funniest part of the Bible, okay? He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your father. But the father said... Okay, let's just stop there. Okay, so the father... Father, I've sinned against... Dad, gosh, get your arms off me. Just thinking of how crazy this would be, how insane this is. Crazy love. If you've heard the song Furious, it's his love is deep, his love is wide, and it covers us. His love is fierce, his love is strong, and is furious. And I love how it's using, these words that you don't even really imagine to describe love, but here it's totally the way it is. Such crazy love that the Father has for the Son. Such crazy love that the Father has for us. So then the father says, but the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For the son of mine was dead and is now alive. He was lost and found. So they began to celebrate. Okay, so this is just... How crazy is this that someone who had totally just dumped Christ, dumped everything his father had given him, is now being given a party, a pretty awesome party at that, because he's returned, and he's not even really confessed anything. In fact, he's barely had time to speak and barely had time to even anything, and his father's already loving him. This is how much God loves us. That no matter what we do, nothing can tear us from the grip of his mighty love. Sorry, I had a ton of Christian songs playing in my head, and most of them were about love. It's just a crazy love for us. Um, verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field, and when he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called out to the servants and asked, "What was going on?" "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has come back safe and sound." We often think of the brother as like this, what's going on? My brother is such an idiot. He's so evil. I am the perfect one. Okay, let's look at this. He was out in the fields. He was working for his father. He was doing good things. He was just as strong as a believer as I am. Probably. Okay, I should probably pause and explain this before I keep making these references. I think we can all agree that the father is an example of God, and the two brothers are... Oh, wait, no, I did talk about this earlier. The two brothers are an example of different types of Christians. Now, I think there's more, probably, types of Christians, but I think these are the two main ones, different types of people in general. But, the brother was serving the father, the other brother. So then he says in verse 28, the older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. Have you ever been like, "Oh, I would never go to, the house of a, I want to say a lot of things, but I don't want to put them on the internet. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, I don't want to go to that person's birthday party. He's evil. That's a simplistic one for like 10-year-olds. But you get the idea. You don't want to hang out with. I wouldn't hang out with them. They treat me like dirt. It's like the brother. How often am I like him? Okay, I realize this, that I'm not going to merge with these other people because I don't think they're right. He says, so the father went out and pleaded with him, but he answered, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you, and you never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a younger goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, and comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." It's hard reading this for me because I know I've said things to God like this. Like I told you earlier with my friends, I'm like, how can they be really, dang it, my wire got clipped. How can they really be in love? How can God love them? And yet, verse 31, it says, "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad because your brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." I heard a review where a guy said that he wrote an article on this chapter, and he accidentally titled it "The Prodigal Father." And someone emailed him back or whatever, "Oh my goodness, that's such a good idea," because another one of the definitions for prodigal is extravagant. And the father truly is prodigal with his love. And he said he didn't have the heart to tell him that was an accident, and he didn't actually mean to do it. But he gets a point across, is that those who are truly, like, super Christians, okay, I'm going to call us that, because that's the only term I can think of. The ones who have always walked with the Lord, always been perfect, we're perfect people. And in reality, often, like this brother, we have way too much pride. Can we all agree that this guy has way too much pride? And that's one thing I'm going to hopefully do a projectile on pride later this week. Because I've been recently convicted of this, and it's just... my pride is something that I have that's just as horrible as what the prodigal Christians have, which there are prodigal Christians out there. Don't get me wrong. He says, you all are always with me, and everything I have is yours. So, we have all the glory of God at all times. These prodigal Christians get it once in a lifetime, maybe, and then they continue on with it. But when they get it, it's, well, I might be wrong about this. But you get what I'm saying. We've always had the glory of God, unlike the prodigal, the other son, the older son, okay, has always had the glory of his father, the joy of his father. But the prodigal son gets it in this big party, extravagant happiness. I'm not sure how that exactly relates to Christianity. How that exactly relates to our Christian life, because when the brother, assuming that he kept on living with the father and became a better man and all that stuff, he also would have had the joy with him. But why does that mean that the other brother doesn't get it until this certain time? Anyways, let's get back to the beginning of the story. Let's not forget that the Pharisees are saying, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. So, in return, Jesus tells them about this story, where God was clearly welcoming sinners. God was clearly getting his hands dirty. He almost always got his hands dirty. And it's just a crazy moment where you realize that we as Christians also need to get our hands dirty. That's really what I want to talk about, or leave you guys with, is that we need to get our hands dirty as well. We can't be pompous and prideful, which I'll talk about pride later this week. I promise. We need to be willing to get our hands dirty. So, okay, and we get our hands dirty because the father got his hands dirty. He was hanging out with tax collectors, prostitutes, all sorts of crazy sinners, and he never once judged them. The only people who Jesus ever judged were the Pharisees. And who were the Pharisees? They were hypocrites. There's a reason why they say only God can judge me, because we really shouldn't be judging. Now, there's a point at which you do need to judge, because if you say only God can judge me, then you're therefore judging someone for judging you. But I think you get what I'm saying, is that we need to be willing to get our hands dirty for Christ, because we can't just rise above it. We can't be, the perfect people that we are if we truly... The ministry is messy. That's my point. So yeah, I'm gonna stop there. Like, comment, subscribe. Love me, if you love me. No, actually, if you love me, I don't know. But if you like this, just like it. Seriously, And if you like my stuff, just subscribe to it, because, a channel's fame is based on its subscription level. Anyways, thanks, guys.